call this meeting to order and apologize. My gavel has been misplaced. Dick, would you please lead us in?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, our first order of business is to review and approve minutes of the September 12 meetings, beginning with the work session minutes.
I'll move that the work session minutes of September the 12th be approved as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Ray and seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
So, Mr. Lewis abstained. He was not present for that meeting. Moving on to the September 12, 2011 regular meeting minutes. And I would like to make an addition to those minutes in the section under public comment. Recall Mr. Wood requested clarification of my statement that we would use non-public sessions to discuss potential sites for the safety buildings, and I stated at that time that non-public meetings would only be used to discuss price negotiations with regard to the potential locations. That was the only change I had to those minutes.
I'll move that the minutes of the regular meeting of September the 12th, as amended this evening by the chair, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved by Ray, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And finally, we move on to the September 12 non-public minutes.
I move that we approve the non-public minutes of September 12 as written.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Charlie, seconded by Ray. All those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
All right. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 12, 2011, and Monday, October 24, 2011. Work review sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 p.m. We will have a special non-public work session meeting at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, October 3, 2011. All of the above meetings will be held in the Town Hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of August are available in the Town Hall. Town offices will be closed on Monday, October 10, 2011, in observance of Columbus Day. And a citizen is needed to represent the town of Plymouth at Genesis Behavioral Health Board meetings. Those meetings take place in Laconia. If anyone is interested, please contact the town hall at your soonest convenience. All right. Under personnel, we have an introduction and a welcome to Brian Peck, our newest firefighter and paramedic. Please come up, Brian.
Well, as you know, we were searching to replace a firefighter paramedic that had left us a while ago, and we received quite a few applications. We went through the process, interviews, and so forth, and Brian Peck is the one that was chosen due to his years of service, his experiences, and all that. He comes to us from the city of Portsmouth, where he's been working there for the last 5 years. He currently resides in the town of Thornton. He has just completed his week of initiation where he goes through all the trucks, all the equipment that we have, our policies, our procedures. He gets checked off on all that. And Thursday he will start his regular shift. So here he is, so everybody can put a face with a name.
Brian, and
Where do you live?
I live in Thornton.
Oh, okay. Closer to home.
Much closer.
close to home, definitely. Well, welcome, and, I understand that it was the selection process was very thorough and exhaustive, and I think that everybody was satisfied that you were our best choice, so welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have nothing under appointments. Under updates, we have this safety building update. Just wanted to let people know that during our interviews with the 4 architectural firms that we spoke with about the safety buildings in response to our RFP, every one of them stated that the location at 42 Highland Street severely limits the fire department's ability to add any additional apparatus that might be required at any time in the future. So in view of this, our fire chief and both his full-time and part-time firefighters have been asked to consider how their organization might best serve the community with a company at 42 Highland Street and a satellite station elsewhere in town. And we expect to hear back from them as to how they feel they can best accomplish this prior to our next meeting. And does anyone have anything they'd like to add to that?
Ma'am.
I think one of the thoughts that we have had is that 42 Highland Street might serve as a call station with some personnel manning it. But again, we've really given it back to the fire department and said, how is it going to best work for them? So,
I think getting their participation will be important.
yeah. And the initial discussion with them, I think there's, they were hesitant but then enthusiastic. So I think I think that we will certainly be looking forward to hearing from them. All right, we have no correspondence. Visitors, Kelly Monahan from the Grafton County Registry. We have some updates on changes.
Evening.
Ideally, I will be coming out to the town to introduce myself and explain the office and the transitions and hear your concerns for our records. We find ourselves in a very unfortunate time in dealing with the Registry of Deeds offices. I've been speaking with Attorney Conklin, so he is up to speed, being a real estate attorney as well, with the national situation. With our mortgage and foreclosure crisis that's going on. Is anyone here familiar with MERS or maybe seen the 60 Minutes situation, episode?
Did not use the word familiar.
Okay, it's a very complex situation, and I've been digesting it and dealing with it throughout the summer, and in cooperation with our software partner, we've identified a minimum of 1,300 robo-signed documents just in the Grafton deed offices, and these are just some of them. And what's going on out there, we're not really hearing it in mainstream media, maybe the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, but the 50 AGs have a task force that are trying to deal with these fraudulent documents that were generated in mortgage assignments and in discharges and in the foreclosure process. New Hampshire being a non-foreclosure state, our courts and our judges aren't seeing the evidence come forward that in many, many, potentially nationally, millions of cases, people were out of their homes due to improper documentation. What the 60 Minutes thing, if no one has seen it, people were paid $10 an hour to just catch up and sign their names as bank presidents and notaries to backtrack to catch up on the documentation. So I've drafted a letter that I've sent out to our members that have our subscription service, you know, the real estate professionals, the legal, and to the papers, just to inform our citizens of where they can go for for information to empower themselves in this situation, and also the contact name at our Attorney General's office that's dealing with this complaint. It was on his desk. There really wasn't much. I'm sorry, I don't have 5 copies. I was the first person to call, the first Register of Deeds to call him and speak of this situation 2 weeks ago. So he's the one to direct any concerns to. I've started hearing back from the letters going out, and people should be concerned. The big banks and big title companies involved are in settlement negotiations right now that will absolve them of any future civil liabilities. Just a penalty and it goes away. Also, our government's looking at just waving a wand and legitimizing this process of bypassing the Registry of Deeds. I haven't even begun to assess the lack of fees over 15 or so years that have been due to this county. Many counties across the country are starting to put together some suits to look at reclaiming the millions and millions of dollars of fees. This entity was created specifically to speed up, bundle into mortgage-backed securities, and bypass the Registry of Deeds. So this is what we're dealing with going forward. And since this is going out to the newspapers and starting to be active, I felt that I would speak to the town officials, give them a heads up as to what this is coming. I'm hoping that the letter itself will empower people and direct them right where they need to go, and that's to the Assistant Attorney General that's in charge of this. Our Attorney General will have a say in the ultimate outcome of this task force decision, and it's ongoing right now. And that leads to our local issue, which is keeping these records secure and local, where they've been for hundreds of years. And as we allowed ourselves to be available on the internet, the predators are then coming forth, looking for their piece of the pie. So I wouldn't be surprised if legislation in the next few years looks to consolidate county offices. So these are the things on the horizon, and I just wanted to touch base with you all and let you know a little bit of what's going on up there.
Just a question, and I'll show much ignorance as I have in real estate related issues sometimes. I mean, these documents that are robo-signed don't ever come to you as documents to be recorded? Or?
They come to us as well, in some cases they do. What MERS was created to do was become a clearinghouse of itself to eventually, I believe, eliminate local county land records. That was the dream of the large title companies and the big banks. It was just a quicker system. When they sort of got tripped up and caught, that's when they started, DocX started just opening up shops where they hired people at $10 an hour to just sign their name as fast as they could.
Well, they're signing your name?
They're signing their name as a bank president.
Okay.
And as a notary, just the simplest name. Linda Green was the example from the 60 Minutes episode. They wanted a name that was quick to sign, easy to understand, and we only selected a few of the implicated parties to come up with 1,300 documents. We're not hearing about this because it's going to, I think, maybe take apart some big banks. It's what's happening up there. So we're at a crossroads in land records management. We're at a serious crossroads. Are we going to become a national system, or are we going to stay the way it's been since the colonial days, with of course, the modernization and the upgrades and the safeguards that allow our professionals to do their jobs and access it via the internet, but still accommodate our citizens that don't have computer skills or don't have access to. And that's where we are in Grafton County, and I explain that to our more urban counties that I'm most concerned with the farmer that's in the field that doesn't know this is happening and doesn't have internet at his home.
Right.
So that's where we're at, and our office is very established there. My deputy registrar's been there 26 years, and the next person 22 years. And they know this county, and they know the land records. But because of computerization, they didn't necessarily have the ability with just a human brain to recognize the signature repetition. So that's where software comes in handy to be able to sort internally to do things like this. But just nationally, there's an effort for a big tweak to this system. A lot of money involved in the big securities, big title companies to just create a national clearinghouse, which I think you can understand the implications as we're already in this mess, how well this system worked. So we're looking forward to viewing how this plays out. But in the meantime, more local concern. I have publicly asked our commissioners and our executive committee to consider a no-bid option for our software. My contract is up June 30th of next year. It's a bad time to turn over this software to save a couple, maybe $10,000, $20,000. I want to know, I'm very comfortable with who we're with. They have publicly sided with the county governments versus the title industry and the big banks. And they are actually playing a very critical partnership role in linking the experiences of all the registered deeds that they work with and adding the value-added education of what's going on moment to moment. So I've publicly in the last few weeks asked for this no bid. It's not that I don't want to look out to save money for the county, but this is a critical impasse we're at. And I just think it's best to just hunker down a little bit and take care of where we are. And I just wanted, as this is going out there, if you had any questions for me going forward, then I'm always available, or my staff is, to help sort through this, because it's a very complicated situation.
Is there a common denominator? This is the 1,300.
What I passed around is the 1,300.
I mean, is there a common denominator, or how do you get on that list?
It's where the the documents come to be recorded and where they're returned back to was that first common denominator. They just did one search. And I don't really want to say the names of the banks publicly, but if you looked at those websites or looked at the Wall Street Journal, you know who's in negotiation and there's 14 big banks that are under federal indictment right now. And one of the biggest software company competitors with mine is under indictment by the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, the Office of the Comptroller. That's a company that would like our business. And they own DocX. They are in deep water. So that is my reasoning for asking for this no-bid contract. The company, Fiddler, we were with for many years. Connor & Connor was a New Hampshire family company. They saw that this was, as the computerization came forward, that it was getting a little bit bigger for them. She searched the country, the owner, and sold to Fiddler of Illinois, Rock Island, Illinois, who she was very comfortable with, and I am too. I'm very comfortable with the way they've treated us and just their position going forward as far as security, because quite frankly, there are foreign countries that are searching our records and gathering our databases, and I'm happy with our security the way it is, and they've frozen our price for the contract going forward for 2 years as well, in cooperation with us, which I feel like we're getting a good value for our dollar, and I feel like this would be a very bad time to look to make a move.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at, and you know where you can find me, at the county office, I hope. And I'm hoping that the letters that go out will direct the people right to the Attorney General's office, so we can, as citizens of New Hampshire, have a say in the outcome of this. Anyway, my email's on there, and have those.
I guess the only question that comes to my mind is a question. Is there a role that we should be considering playing as this has started to unfold now?
I believe letters to our Attorney General is the only thing. Being a non-foreclosure state, we can't really help our citizens. The foreclosure process is between the mortgage broker or the title mill or the bank, the big bank, and the individual. And you know, you have to understand, I'm sure you do, when people are in financial trouble, they're not sharing a lot. Right. They're not networking a lot. And in a lot of cases, they don't have the funds to afford an attorney to even be aware of what's going on. And the horror stories that are out there, that actually one of our executive committee members, when I brought this up last Monday, said, my daughter can't even find who to pay her mortgage to, who owns it. And that's what it is. It's been just smoke and mirrors and constant movement. And in many cases, people have dutifully made arrangements and paid, and they're saying that it's gone to the wrong entity, and there's just so much going on out there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Paul?
Kelly, you going to have any other documentation that's going to come out, any flyers or
I have, it's this thick. I will send you a packet.
something so that I can start putting on the website or something like that? Information going out to citizens.
Really, those three blogs that I list go on forever.
Okay,
They could get lost for weeks in there
all right.
with what's going on in different states. I think there's 26 states that are judicial foreclosures. So, you know, it's, and that's the problem as we try and deal with this as a 50 Attorney General task force, is that the states all have different laws.
Right. Do you need these, Lisbeth?
Yes, if you could. I just feel like, even though everything in our office is public record, this shouldn't be a matter of public record. Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much. And I want to apologize for last week. I've been trying to sort out my firsts and thirds and second and fourths as I go through everyone, and I confused you in my calendar. I want to apologize for standing you up.
No problem.
All righty. Thanks very much.
We have no purchase orders. Committee reports. Charlie?
Yeah, the school board is meeting tonight as we speak, and their meetings are more or less set on an availability basis, so I've asked Mike Bullock if he can try to have an arrangement where they don't happen on the night of the Board of Selectmen meeting, so he would miss my scintillating presence and the reports that go with it. So they're going to work on that. I've talked to 3 school board members. I attended the LGA seminar on budgeting at Loon Mountain with Ray and Kate Beasley and Faith Jacobs from downstairs. Plymouth was pretty well represented. It was kind of interesting because the one of the presenters was the head of the budget department in Hanover, and I had some conversations with her, and they their relationship with the university or Dartmouth College is completely different than ours, primarily because there is no restriction on taxing income properties that are owned by the college, and they kind of look forward to dormitories and things like that being built. I thought it was a pretty good seminar. I don't know, Ray might have some comments, but in addition, I went to a meeting in Holderness last week for the Time Warner contract negotiations, where the consortium is now consists of Plymouth, Ashland, and Holderness, as well as Plymouth State University is more or less, they're sort of an observer participant. Their contract cycles differently, and it's a bit different. One of the things that's interesting about the Time Warner contract this time around is it's going to be a non-exclusive, primarily because Time Warner and Fairpoint have an agreement where basically they don't have an agreement, but the government is not allowing a non-exclusive or an exclusive agreement anymore, because Fairpoint now has the right to come in and compete for services that are provided by Time Warner. So it changes the attitude, so to speak,
Of Time Warner.
of Time Warner.
Yes, I would expect so.
And I think things like the build-out, the full build-out issue is going to be a little bit easier to deal with, particularly in view of what's already happened in Plymouth. It also, the big issue is going to be term. Time Warner is going to want a 20-year term as long as possible, and of course our advantage is going to be as short as possible. But I think we're probably going to work out, we've got until 2013, we're going to have public hearings this year. And one of the issues that came up, and this is all three towns, is the the issue of the assignment of Plymouth as part of the Bennington, Vermont metro area, as opposed to Boston. And that's actually the federal government decided that Plymouth is part of the metro area for northern New England as opposed to Boston. And the attorneys recommended that we get involved in a petition with Holderness and Ashland to get that reversed. And he feels that in view of the way this thing is going to go down, that Time Warner will be much more amenable to working with us to get the feds to open up the Boston market. So, other than that, I'm pretty well wiped out.
Would that shift from Burlington to Boston, some of the stations that we get now would be eliminated and Boston stations would come back?
Yeah, either that or they would add
Yeah.
Boston and leave Bennington in place. It depends how the feds handle it. There's all sorts of ways to deal with it, but our argument is that because of the university, we probably, and this could be something we might want to bring out in the hearing, is that, what percentage of the students come from the portion of the state that would normally be considered the Boston metro.
I mean, I'd rather see adding of stations as opposed to deleting some.
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten used to it.
That's the kind of thing, yeah.
It looks like it's going to be an add-on versus a
Yeah, I think
replacement.
it will. It'll probably be an add-on. So we'll still have news from Plattsburgh and places like that,
Yeah.
as opposed to nothing from Boston. So things are moving along. I think we'll be in the public hearing. We'll get into that within the next 3 months. I guess we've got to work out the details.
Right.
I was pleased to see that Channel 5, the ABC channel from Boston, has been added back in. That was a surprise. I didn't just happen to run across that. Just an observation.
When did that happen?
I just noticed it in the past week.
Yeah.
So,
Jack, go
3 reports. First, a short one. I attended the annual business meeting of the Grafton County Economic Development Council as representative on behalf of Plymouth. And the significant outcome that I came away from that meeting was that they, as of August the 24th, they now have taken title and own 149 Main Street. And they have been successful on 2 grounds. One, everything is now in play from the standpoint of the support from Plymouth State University for the operational supports that's going to show up from the standpoint of program design and the administration, with budgeting covering the necessary staffing positions starting to show up in the fall of next year. Secondly, they have been very successful on a number of venues, and there's 3 that are out there, and securing the funding that will actually add a second story to that facility. And the board took action at their business meeting to actually explore seeking additional funding to even consider a 3rd story for that. That's going to be quite an ambitious undertaking to do that. That would raise the necessary funding up to somewhere between $1.8 and $2 million, and actually would entail raising the existing structure. So that's a very ambitious wish for right now, but they are fairly well along with all the necessary funding to make an additional 2nd story occur. So that's exciting news for the town of Plymouth. I also attended 2 weeks ago the regular business meeting of the Plymouth Planning Board, and the single purpose of that meeting was, one, to provide some clarification that as we got into the details of the matter, turned out that there was some confusion actually on the part of the applicant as to what was required. The Gowan property development that had been approved back about 5 or 6 years ago, a 9-lot development, residential, provided for a cistern to be put into place to provide the necessary water supply for fire suppression at the request of the then police chief. And that's pretty much a routine practice for the planning board to seek input from department heads such as police and fire and highway. And when we believe that they are reasonable accommodations that should be made by the developer to make sure that they show up in the conditions that are attached to the development of that site. About that time, there was a very useful piece of information that was shared by the then fire chief on the benefits of sprinkler systems both on residential and commercial. Somehow or another, that subject got carried over by the developer into the bylaws of the development itself, not any conditions that the town had imposed. And they actually enacted bylaws that required sprinkler systems. Well, sprinkler system is preferred over a cistern system. So the first two houses that were developed within this development had sprinkler systems, and the third one was now under development. And it became very clear that it added anywhere from 5 to 7% to the new cost of a house, depending on the architectural design of the house, to make this happen. And the developer was recognizing this, and they had moved to amend their bylaws, and he was seeking clarification as to whether or not he was going to have to continue to move forward with the cistern. And we did hear from our current fire chief that if he was asked, even again today, if that was appropriate, the current fire chief had said yes, he would recommend that. So we did clarify the things for the developer, and it's now moving forward, and I believe the name of the development now is moved from Gowan to Martin Estates.
Can I ask a question? Where's that project located?
It's on the southern part of the town, and I've forgotten the actual name of the street. I'm looking to Paul, see if he might be able to help me out. I've lost it.
It's off Brown Road.
Thank you. To help you?
Yeah. So, well, just to clarify, the position of the fire chief today is the cistern does need to be built.
Yes. And lastly, because I understand Mike is not going to be here, and I know did attend the most recent meeting of the Energy Committee.
Commission?
That is now the commission. I wanted to point out on his behalf that the work of the Better Buildings development, that there are 2 programs that are coming up on the 4th and the 5th that have been noticed publicly in the media in providing information on how to take advantage of energy efficiency measures, and just direct people to look at the media again, because I believe they'll be re-advertised, but they're coming up week after next. 2 subsequent days, the one for the commercial is during the lunch hour period, and the one for the residential is in the evening hours, so they're trying to make it as convenient as possible for people to attend.
Thank you. Dick, did you have any?
No, I did not.
Okay. And I attended both the PSU Community Task Force meeting and a Campus Community Council meeting last week. We were introduced to the new coordinator of student conduct and community standards for Plymouth State, which is Sean Bogle. Came to us from Radford University in Virginia and has great experience, great background. Chief Temporino gave his report. It appears that the complaints concerning unreasonable noise have gone down by almost half since last year in the same time frame. I believe last year it was approximately 130 complaints that the department received, and this year it was, and this may not be quite right, but around 80. However, the number of citations that the police department has issued has gone up from 6 last year in the opening week to 8 this year. And that trend has continued with the police taking a more active role, both the university police and the town police taking action, and students also being quieter. The general consensus at both meetings, and in particular at the Campus Community Council meeting, was that the student conduct has much improved since last year. So that was a good thing. And that's all I had. don't see Doug McLean here to talk about the neighborhood signs, so we will delay that. And under other business, Lisa Landari to discuss our 250th celebration. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Ross Eachman. And,
Yes.
here with Lisa, representing the Plymouth Historical Society. I'm my current treasurer, and Lisa is current president. And our interest is to encourage the board to follow through on the appointment of a commission to handle the celebration of the 250th in 2013. And while it may seem like that's a ways off, we believe that these kinds of celebrations require a lot of coordination and a lot of forethought, and would encourage that the commission get underway in starting to determine what kind of a celebration it's going to have and what kind of activities are going to occur so that they can start getting subcommittees to work on those various components. The Society's interest is in helping in any way we can, being supportive of the Commission to provide any information, any resources that we have over at the Society. And so we want you to know that that is available and to pass that information on to whoever you appoint to this Commission. We also, and this is a bit out of our purview, but based upon the past celebrations, and Lisa has prepared a very nice chart to give you as to what occurred in 1913, what occurred in 1963. The selectmen back then put monetary appropriations into the warrant, either as part of the budget or as a separate warrant article, and we think it would be appropriate if you can find your way clear to do that in this year's budget, to give the committee or the commission some money to work with, because there are people whose support they'll need who may cost money. There may be things to order, like medallions, if you're going to have another coin-like medallion that we had in 1913 and again in 1963. If they're going to print any kinds of booklets, those kinds of things, then there's deposits and the like. So those were the two items that we wanted to encourage you to find your way amongst all your other obligations this fall, a budget and the like, but to see if we can get this going. And as I say, we're happy to do anything we can to support it. It's the town's party, but we want to be in it and provide historical exhibits or work on any of the booklets. We're even talking about a supplement to the 1963 book, 20 Decades in Plymouth, and Lisa has already started the work and has had some committee members see if we could do the next 5 decades that have occurred since then, so that we have a running historical record of what's gone on in the town, and so those are the kinds of things that we think we could add to the mix. But the biggest part of it, the parades and the program and all of that, that's up to the commission to do. And having just gone through it over in Holderness, it's a big undertaking, and it's not any too soon to at least be getting it started.
Yeah. Were you involved in Holderness?
I was peripherally. I did some of the. They had a charrette of some kind of a remembrance night, and we had a lot of the older citizens come in and sat around a sort of a campfire kind of thing, and just reminisced about different things at Holderness, and it was very effective, and they enjoyed it very much. But that was the extent of my involvement. I think Taylor, if you know who he is, was very involved and did a lot of the organizations. But they ran a very effective, in my opinion, celebration, and I think we can do equally well in Plymouth if we get started on it.
Oh, did you?
We have created a budget line, and we put $2,000 in that line so that you can already start using as startup cost for flyers or any kind of advertisements,
Great.
you could call me, I can tell you how we can run that through our financial system.
I think the one question, and are we talking about a committee or a commission here?
I thought the article said commission, right?
I think it was committee.
Committee?
I have to go back.
It's all right, I just
Yeah.
want, for clarification
In
purposes.
in prior years, it was called a commission.
Okay.
I'm not sure it makes much difference, but
What the task is going to be
Yeah.
the same anyway. Do you have numbers in mind for how many people are going to be needed to do this? And
it was 7 under the warrant article that was adopted
Yeah.
in
In the
2010.
past, I think it was 5, and we thought it might need 7 this time around.
might need 7. So essentially what we're doing is looking for volunteers to serve on the 250th celebration committee, which
And we do have one name,
we have one name.
yes, that would like to be on it.
Okay. And I know
It's going to
that
be
we,
held in the summer.
Well,
Ideally, when it should be held is the weekend prior to July 15th, which is the actual 250th anniversary of the signing of the charter.
Mhm.
So that would be the weekend of the 13th and the 14th of July 2013.
That's when they sign, what's the date of the charter?
July 15th, 1763.
you'll be very interested in this material that Lisa's put together, and it'll help you understand what's been done by the prior boards. We began thinking about 1763 and said, well, of course nothing happened. We're in the middle of a civil war. No one was celebrating anything back then.
Wow.
Try not to shuffle the papers.
So please get in touch with us, and for any questions you have that we can help you with, or the committee, once it's formed, please tell them that we are available and would like to help in any way that they see fit to include us.
I know that we've had an expression of interest by the university to be involved in this with the town,
Yeah, we're
so,
very excited about that.
I've had
yes.
contact with a few people. Trish Lindbergh is talking about doing an original musical for the ETC production that year.
Wow.
With a cast of 250?
Well, that's her, that's her hope. For the pageant in 1913, they did have a cast of 150 for the 150th, but, yeah, and I've talked to some other partners, hopefully at the college, who'll be willing to work on some projects, but
All you need is a large choir and make every other person promise not to sing. But I appreciate that you've started the money, because that's always a tough part of the process in these times, but it certainly is necessary, and as you are well aware.
Does anyone else have questions?
Just finding all that interesting.
Yeah, it was great. Great stuff.
Come over to the Historical Society, there's a lot more.
Are you going to try to bring in, like, the Rotary Club and that sort of thing?
Oh, I'm sure the committee will want to do that, get the various groups involved, get this hospital involved, and the chamber and electric co-op and the like, absolutely. And of course, if they have a parade, all of those groups will be asked to do floats, as done, as you can see, in both of the prior parades. They had huge floats.
I've included some overviews of what was included in the celebrations from both the 150th and 200th, but if anybody's interested, there are complete booklets that show the scope of the committees and so forth.
That's great. All right.
I'm glad we had somebody come forward, and, because it is going to come quick for us, and we need some fundraisers, and
Yeah. And if you can share any of the names of the people who've come forward to you and expressed an interest, that would be great, so that we can consolidate it and
I
start.
haven't had anybody really come forward.
All right.
But we
Those who have
may appropriate
grudging
some
We've
leads.
worked on wish lists, but we haven't had anybody step forward.
Well, and even that, I mean, just to people that you think would be good to have on the committee that we might be able to contact.
That would be wonderful.
That would be
We
great.
do that.
Super.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. have no unfinished business. Do we have any public comment tonight? Right, we have nothing to discuss in non-public.
Union negotiations?
Well, we do still need to do that.
Just an update.
Okay. All right, so with that, do I have a motion to go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:3, 2, A through C?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Ray, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We are in non-public, and I'll use my